Did you know how comic books took over the world? Illustrated stories have been around for centuries, but the history of comics proper in their modern form begins in the late 19th century. The first traditional comic book is considered to be The Yellow Kid, which debuted in 1895. This character, created by Richard Outcault, was a sensation and laid the groundwork for what we now recognize as comics. A key milestone in the modern comic book industry occurred in 1907 with the debut of the first daily comic strip, Matt and Jeff by Bud Fisher. Initially, comics were seen as children's entertainment and primarily appeared in newspapers. This perception began to shift in the 1930s. In 1929, the first comic book, Famous Funnies, was published, offering 16 pages of original comics. Its success led other major publishers to compile previously published newspaper comics into books form for readers. The period from 1938 to 1956 is often referred to as the Golden Age of comics, marking the emergence of comics as a distinct medium. It was during this era that future giants of the global comic book industry, Timely Comics, and National Allied Publications, now known as Marvel, and DC Comics, emerged. The publication of Action Comics #1 by National Allied Publications in 1938 was a turning point in comic book history. It introduced Superman, created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. This groundbreaking character not only defined the superhero genre but also became a symbol of hope during difficult times. During World War II, comics played a crucial role in propaganda. Characters like Captain America, created by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, were used to promote patriotism and rally support for the war effort. These stories resonated with readers, making superheroes cultural icons. During that period, stories featuring Superman, Batman, and Captain Marvel were selling as many as 1.5 million copies each month. The 1960s marked a turning point for comic books. Marvel Comics, under the guidance of Stan Lee, began to innovate the superhero genre. Characters like Spider-Man, Iron Man, and the X-Men were introduced with relatable flaws and complex narratives. This new approach attracted a wider audience and solidified Marvel's place in comic book history. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby are perhaps two of the most iconic collaborators in the industry. Their work not only shaped Marvel Comics but also influenced storytelling across all media. Another iconic figure is Will Eisner, known for his innovative storytelling techniques and for coining the term graphic novel. His work, particularly A Contract with God, helped elevate comics as a legitimate art form. In the 1960s, festivals celebrating various entertainment sectors began to appear, including those for comic books. A key event is Comic-Con, which started in San Diego in 1970, founded by comic book author Shel Dorf, publisher Ken Kruger and their friends. In the 1980s, the comic book industry underwent a renaissance era, as creators began to re-evaluate the genre of illustrated narratives. This shift moved away from lighthearted and simplistic tales towards more intricate and often darker stories about superheroes. During this period, from 1985 to 1987, audiences were introduced to iconic works like Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons' Watchmen, and Daredevil, Born Again, also by Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli. But comics aren't just an American phenomenon. In Japan, manga has been captivating readers since the post-war era. Artists like Osamu Tezuka, often referred to as the god of manga, revolutionized the industry with his storytelling and artistic style. In Europe, the bande dessinée tradition produced beloved series like Asterix and Tintin. These comics have become cultural staples, showcasing diverse styles and narratives. Over the years, comic books began to spread to other mediums. The turning point was Richard Donner's 1978 DC Studios film Superman, which was the first big-budget comic book adaptation and achieved huge commercial success, sparking public interest in superhero movies. However, subsequent comic book films struggled, being criticized by audiences and reviewers, and many failed to recoup production costs. This trend changed dramatically in 2000 when 20th Century Fox partnered with Marvel to launch the X-Men franchise. The success of these films paved the way for other major superhero hits such as Spider-Man and Iron Man. Since then, comic book heroes have firmly established themselves as an important part of popular culture. Today, comic books are more popular than ever. With over 100,000 people attending Comic-Con each year, as well as other themed festivals bringing together fans of all kinds from all over the world. Now you know more about the history of comics and their journey to worldwide popularity. What's your favorite superhero? Share in the comments. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to find out more interesting stuff.